All right. Welcome to everyone. We'll be joining in just a few minutes, or a couple of minutes actually. We'll be getting ready to go live and get started.
Hey, hi, Michael.
Yes, we're already live, so you
Okay,
can go ahead uh, and get started.
really? All right. All right. So I think we are on YouTube now. The link wasn't working on my side. That is why I was just a little bit late. So I hope everybody is doing good, sound, and safe. And you might be watching this meeting right now, or you might be watching the recording. So great to see everybody once again. And just give me a second. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. This is something that we haven't really spoken about in a webinar, although we have spoken about these things in many of our sessions. But here we are diving deep into words, something where there is a combination of everything that is required of you if you're working on your speech with this system. And these steps, these strategies, if you will, are extremely important. They are significantly important if you are right here working on your speech to transform it. So, if you go out there, look at many other systems that help people with their speech, stuttering, stammering, and stuff, the first mistake that they often do is that they focus a lot of their attention on trying to remove stuttering, on trying to remove stammering, on trying to eliminate it. And probably this is something that we all have been trying to do, we all have been focusing on for a lot of time, just to know the fact that it isn't helpful, right? Focusing on not stuttering, not stammering, working on your speech so that you don't stutter, you don't stammer, that goal in itself is not helpful. Focusing on something like that is just like focusing on, if I ask you to not focus on a red car right now, don't have the image of the red car, of a red car in your mind right now. So you would notice that this is exactly what you would be looking at in your brains. Because whatever we ask ourselves not to do, not to focus on, that is where the focus starts to go. And the focus is the main problem. Focusing on the fact that I hope I don't stutter, I hope I don't stammer. That is what causes you to struggle with your speech. You would have noticed various times that you would be speaking and there would be various words that you would say, and you would say those words out smoothly. And after saying that, you would just go back, look at your speech, and probably ask yourself, how was I able to say that word? Or how was I able to say those words? I have always historically struggled with those words. The reason why it happened with you, or why it might have happened with you, is because at that time, for some reason, you weren't focusing on those words. You weren't anticipating those words. So you were able to say those words out smoothly. It all goes around to focus, it all goes around to anticipation, right? So make sure that when you're working on your speech, the first goal should be to make sure that your goal is very clear. You are working on your speech with the system to help you become an amazing and exceptional speaker, right? So that should be the first goal. And when you would be working towards that, the best part is that stuttering, stammering, and everything else just takes care of itself in the process. In the first goal, the goal has to be right. I have to work to become a smooth, amazing, and excellent speaker, right? So that should be your goal. In the session, we would be speaking about the three most crucial aspects, the three most important aspects that you need to focus on when you're working on your speech. And we might have a fourth one or something, we'll see. But these are the three most important aspects to focus on when you are working on your speech. Now, these are some things that we have spoken about in many of the sessions. So you might have heard this stuff from us in a lot of these sessions, but here we are going to be talking about it all together. And the fact that we have been emphasizing on this stuff over and over again, I hope it makes you realize how important these things are that we are going to speak about. Sometimes they sound easy, they sound very simple, but they are not as easy to do at the start. Why? Because you're changing a habit, you're changing habits that you have been following for a lot of years. So replacing that habit or replacing those habits literally takes time. In actuality, what you are doing in the process is that you're rewiring your brain, right? It takes time. So you have to give yourself some time for it. Let's start jumping into the points, right? The first point that we have, and we have spoken about in multiple sessions, but this is something that gives clients and students. Michael has been doing it for more than 10 years. I've been working with Michael for more than 2 years now. This is something that improves someone's speech by more than 80%. Just this idea, right? And you probably already know what it is. Okay. Just this idea helps clients and students improve their speech by more than 80%. This is not the only aspect in the system, but one of the most important, if not the most important aspects inside the system. Once again, it sounds really simple, but when you start to do that, you realize that it's a hard habit to break. Okay. That is as simple as breathing and slowing your speech down, right? Once again, it sounds simple, but you have to make sure that you remind yourself of this idea over and over again. And we have been repeating in these sessions before speaking situations, even while you're speaking in those speaking situations. Because out of your habits, your previous habits, you would have an urge to go fast, right? So you would have a natural tendency to speak fast and rush. So you need a constant reminder to slow your speech down. And you would realize you would start focusing on slowing down your speech and you would move back to speaking fast. Why? Because of that habit. Then you would have to move yourself back to speaking slow. Then your mind would move back to speaking fast. So you would have to keep doing this movement for a while until it starts to become easier and easier and easier and easier, right? And until you feel like it's starting to happen on its own. Up until that point, there is a conscious amount of effort that needs to be put in right there. Now, why do you think we spoke about or we emphasize on this point of breathing and slowing down so much? There are various aspects to it. If you talk about the main two, maybe three, the first is that when you're going slow, you feel a sense of control over your speech, right? So speed kills in driving, speed kills in speaking. Just see it like if you are driving your car and you're going extremely fast, if someone comes in front of you, it would be really hard to control the car. But if you're moving at a slow pace, even if there is something that just suddenly comes up, you still have control over the car because you're going slow. You can move from the right side, you can move from the left side, you can apply the brakes, you can do whatever you want. Same is the case with speech. When you're going really fast, you don't have the structure in your mind very clear. You would be speaking about one thought, then switching on towards the next thought, then moving back on towards the first thought, and that would build a whole lot of anxiety up. Then you would mess up with your speech, you would worry about it more, and the speech starts spiraling down and down and down and down. But if you realize, or if you focus on breathing and slowing down, you would feel a greater amount of control over your breath since you're consciously focusing on breathing more. Breathing is what gives you the power to speak, actually, right? And then you're consciously slowing down your speech. So you would have a greater amount of control. Now, when we speak about that, even when I went to a foundation and I spoke right there, I gave a presentation. I spoke about the idea of slowing down, and someone right there asked me that if we slow down our speech, wouldn't we take longer to speak? Wouldn't our speech or wouldn't our presentation take longer? Weirdly enough, it's actually the opposite. When you go slow, most of the times you could finish what you have to say faster than what you would have if you were going really fast. And the reason for that is what I just mentioned. Because when you're going slow, you feel a more sense of control over your speech. You're more structured. You're not rushing from one thought towards the next thought. You would be going in a flow. You're slow, you're going in a flow, you're going in a structured way. Your thoughts are not all over the place, right? So it would help you make your speech more smooth, and therefore you would be able to finish what you have to say faster. So, Michael, I've heard it from him that slow is smooth and smooth is fast, right? So, slowing down your speech has a great impact. How to slow down your speech? The first thing and the most important thing that I already talked about is that constant reminder to yourself, not only before speaking situations, but also while you're speaking. But something that we can speak about, and I'm sure we have spoken a lot about it in the previous sessions, a skill that can really help you to slow down your speech is extending out your words more. And extending your words simply means, as most of you might already know, elongating your words, like stretching your words. Some people, when we mention this, they confuse it with the idea of dragging your speech. So, extending your words does not mean speaking like this and dragging. This is dragging of speech. Extending of words means speaking like this, where you're extending some of your words. You don't even need to extend all of your words, right? But make sure that you extend your words and you extend more of your words if you have been a very fast speaker in the past. So if your speech is really, really fast, and I've seen some clients of Michael, in fact, I was also working with someone who used to speak extremely, extremely fast. Like some people, they are even faster than the fastest. So if that is the case, try to extend almost every single word, or try to focus on going super slow by extending more of your words. And you would realize that when you extend more of your words, it's really hard to speak fast. So if I'm extending out my words like I did extending, it would be extremely hard for me to speak fast, right? So extending your words and a constant reminder to slowing down your speech would help you slow it down, feel in a greater amount of control. And just this idea, this is not the only aspect, as I said, but one of the most important aspects. It improves your speech by more than 80%. All right. So, Michael, would you like to share something about that?
All right. So what about now? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to mention some of the reasons why people may resist that. But before I said that I had a little cold. So excuse the sound of my voice. It may sound a little nasally. Um, but let's just talk briefly, just for a couple of minutes, about some of the reasons why you may resist or feel like you can't remind yourself to slow down or breathe. One obviously is because it's not your habit, so there's the resistance there of doing something different, doing something new. There's also some beliefs that you may hear Farouk allude to, or you may have already alluded to these. You may feel like you're going to be speaking too slow and it's going to take too long and people won't wait for you. And because someone is being impatient, they're not going to wait for you. And there are probably a multitude of other reasons why you may feel like you can't go slower, you shouldn't slow down. You may also feel like that's just not the way you speak, or it feels strange, or it feels different, or people are going to wonder what's wrong with you if you're speaking that slow, especially your family and friends. You may feel like they might say, well, why are you speaking that slow? That's not the way you speak. You may feel like you won't be able to interject in conversations if you slow your speech down. Like Farouk said, you may feel like it'll take you longer to get through your presentation. But the truth is, those are false beliefs for the most part. Yes, you will have people who will be impatient and will rush you. Uh, you will you will be speaking differently, and it will initially feel strange. And some people may actually say something to you in terms of why are you speaking like that? These things may happen, but they don't always happen. But even if they did, it doesn't matter because the benefits and the advantages of slowing your speech down, like Farouk said, we're not dragging it, but the benefits far outweigh by 1,000 times speaking slower. The benefits of speaking slower far outweigh the benefits of continuing to speak the way you speak. So, one of the things that you have to do is realize that you're going to have some beliefs. For example, when you're with family and friends, you just don't feel like it because it requires more effort for you to slow your speech down. So when you're with your family and friends, you're like, I just don't feel like it. They understand the way that I speak. They accept me, so I don't need to do it. But that is the time when you actually need to do it the most. And here's why: muscle memory, practice. When you're with family and friends, you don't have to think so much about the content. You're just kind of free flowing. That's when you can focus more of your attention on breathing and slowing down so that when you really need to do it, you have the muscle memory. If you just try to do it in medium to higher pressure speaking situations, it often will not work because there's no memory there. There's no muscle memory. So keep that in mind. You're going to have beliefs. You're going to have physical resistance where you physically feel tired and you just feel like you just don't want to do it. And so because of these things, your brain will try to justify why you shouldn't do it, why you don't need to do it. You have to resist that. You have to understand that that's going to happen. Don't fight it. Just remind yourself why you need to slow down. And Farouk is actually going through a lot of those reasons right now. Thank you, Farouk.
Great. Thank you, Michael. So, speaking about feeling weird, if you don't feel weird while speaking slow, it probably means that you're not slowing down your speech in the first go. So, your new speaking style would feel weird to you at the start. Why? Because this is not something that you have been used to doing. So whenever you start to do something new, the first time you would have went out or gone out and learned how to drive, it would have felt weird. Not because the act of driving is weird, just because you were not used to doing it a lot. So if you feel uncomfortable, if you feel weird, that is a very good thing. And that means that you are doing the right thing. That means that you are using your new speaking style. So you should feel a bit uncomfortable in that sense, right? And this is something that you don't have to keep doing for your whole life. After a while, it would be automatic. And then once you have a greater amount of control over your speech, then you can even work on making your speech more and more dynamic. Where sometimes you might go fast, sometimes you might go slow, you inflect, you emphasize, and do all that stuff. But especially while you're in the process of working on your speech, it's extremely important to keep it towards the slower side and to work on slowing down your speech. That has a huge role to play. All right. Now, moving on towards the second point. Another crucial aspect that you have to keep in mind when you are working on your speech, and that you have to work on, obviously, when you do the work. And that is the idea of airflow linking. Okay. So we just mentioned about extending out your words, slowing down your speech, but there is a slight catch to that. We don't want you to speak slow like this, because this is slow, but this is also very, very choppy. You are chopping off your words as you're speaking. So, yes, you're speaking slow, it would give you a greater sense of control. But because there is no flow in your speech, the major disadvantage to that, what do you think would be the major disadvantage? It would be that it would make you anticipate a lot. If you're speaking word by word, or even if you're speaking in very short phrases, it would make you anticipate a lot of words. And like I spoke about at the start, anticipation is what it all comes down to. When you anticipate, you worry about it, then you focus on it, and then it makes you get stuck, right? So you have to make sure that you're not speaking word by word, or you're not speaking in very short phrases. Try to make sure that when you're speaking, you have a linkage in your speech, you have a flow in your speech. And by that, I mean that when you speak, the sound generally keeps going. You don't stop after every word or after every few words. You should feel a greater sense of flow, right? Airflow linking, blending is like gluing the words together. Where one word ends, the next begins immediately after. Like I said, where one word ends, word ends. I blended the word with ends. So where one word ends, the second word begins immediately after. So you try to make sure that you almost force yourself to keep going whenever your brain wants you to stop and anticipate and worry about the next few words. You force yourself to keep going with the flow. When I say keep going with the flow, I don't mean that keep on speaking and speaking and speaking, but try to make sure that your phrases are a little longer than usual, because most of the people who struggle with their speech, they also speak in very short phrases, right? So make sure that there is a flow to your speech. There's an exercise inside the Pro90D speech system that we won't go into in this session, but that is what you get when you join the system, the free flow speaking exercise. And for me, when I was working on my speech with the system and working with clients, this is one of the most important, once again, just like the idea of breathing and slowing down, the free flow speaking exercise and the actual implementation of it, airflow linking, it has a huge role to play. The more you do that, the more you realize that that anticipation is starting to go down, because you don't feel like I'm saying, for example, if I'm saying a sentence like, I am right here speaking with you all, and I start to anticipate the word speaking, I'm right here, and then I'm anticipating the word speaking, you won't give your brain a chance to anticipate the word if you said that sentence in a flow. I'm right here speaking in the session. I'm right here speaking in the session. It almost feels like this is one long word. I'm right here speaking in this session, right? So try to make sure that you flow with your speech, you link your words as much as you can, and you keep going with the flow as you speak. Airflow linking. So airflow linking means in order to do that, you also need air. So you also need to breathe. If you don't breathe, linking your words, even extending would be really hard. For example, if I'm holding my breath like this and trying to speak, it would be really hard for me to extend and blend my words. So it once again goes back to the idea of breathing as well. There has to be an aspect of breathing and linking your words, breathing and linking your words. As a whole, if we merge breathing and slowing down and airflow linking, you can call it as breathing, extending, and blending. So you're speaking, you're extending and blending your words, then you pause, breathe, extend, and blend. You pause, breathe, extend, and blend. If I give you an example of just extending your words and not blending, it would sound like this. So if I'm just extending and not blending, it would sound like this. So yes, I'm going slow, but it is very, very choppy. On the other hand, if I'm just blending and not extending, it would sound like this. So if I'm just blending my words and not extending my words, it would sound more like this. So this time, yes, I'm in a flow, but I'm going really fast. So your speech should be a combination of extending and blending your words. Right now, the way that I'm speaking, I'm extending my words as well, and I'm making sure that I link my words as well. Wherever I would feel like I need to breathe, I would just pause, breathe, and then go again with the flow, right? Extending helps you with a greater amount of control. Blending helps you with the flow of your speech, and breathing is what gives you the power to extend and blend your words. If you won't be breathing, it would mostly be extremely hard to extend and blend your words. Once again, this too needs a constant reminder before speaking situations, even when you're in speaking situations, that constant reminder: breathe, extend, and blend, breathe and slow down. There has to be a constant reminder right there. Wherever you feel like you're going really fast, just stop, pause, breathe, and start extending and blending your words. So, you have something to add, Michael, right here?
Yes, are you able to hear me okay? Yes. Okay, good. Yeah, just a couple of things. One, uh, related to what you just said. While you're working on your speech, you have to be conscious and very intentional. Like there's three words: aware, awareness, conscious, consciousness, uh, intentional, and intention, right? So you need to be conscious and aware that you are speaking because it's so automatic. It's like walking. So don't think that just because you're going through the program or you're working on your speech that you're automatically going to be aware that you're speaking all the time. Because initially you won't. You'll just keep speaking the way you do, especially under pressure. This is why it's so important to understand the fact that you have a dominant way of speaking right now. You have a dominant way of thinking and a dominant way of believing about who you are as a speaker. This is your speaking identity. So, in order to change this, you have to do what? You have to create a more dominant way of speaking and thinking and believing. And you simply cannot do this on the side, which means you can't just spend an hour a day working on your speech and then the whole other time you're not thinking about your speech. You're just speaking the way you usually speak. You can't just listen to audio or watch videos and think that your speech is going to change. It may change temporarily, may go up and come back down. You've got to put some concerted, some conscious, intentional effort every single day, all day long in changing your speech. And so one way, not one way, but one step is that you have to remember, hey, I'm speaking right now. How am I speaking? Am I reminding myself to breathe? Am I reminding myself to slow down, to extend my words? This obviously, you don't just start working on your speech and immediately do this. It may take a little time, but The point is, you have to be aware that you're speaking. You have to be conscious of that. And then you have to be very intentional in reminding yourself constantly, okay, this is what I need to do. I need to breathe. I need to slow my speech down. And then going back to what I said earlier, you have to do this basically in let's call it three types of speaking situations. One, by yourself. When you're by yourself, you're most relaxed. There's literally no pressure. You can remind yourself what you want to do. Two, when you're with family and friends or people around whom you feel completely comfortable. Sometimes that's not your family, probably is your friends, though, right? So that's another time. Why? Because you have less cognitive load. You don't have to think much about what you're saying. You're just kind of relaxing, free flowing, right? That's the time for you to remind yourself to breathe and slow down, breathe and extend and blend your words because you have more mental resources to do it then. And then the third time is every other time. So when you're ordering coffee, when you are in meetings, when you're talking to colleagues, there too, you need to remind yourself to do it. We did a whole webinar and we did some training and we reminded you, we kind of shared with you that you do have the ability while you're speaking and when you pause, when you breathe, to remind yourself of certain things. And it's self-talk. So you can remind yourself to slow your speech down while you're speaking. For example, while I'm speaking now, and I just took that breath, right then I could have given myself a reminder to do something. I could have said, slow your speech down, or make sure you're inflecting, or make sure you're making good eye contact, whatever it is that I want to work on. When I pause right then, I can do it, but I have to be aware, be conscious, I have to be intentional about doing those things while I'm speaking. So this isn't something you can do on the side. It's something that you have to immerse yourself in. But the good thing is that the more you immerse yourself, the faster your brain turns it into a habit. And what happens then is a great deal of effort in the beginning, and then you'll notice it'll either flatten out or decrease, meaning it does not require hardly any effort. Okay. So just wanted to share that. That's very, very, very important because that's one of those obstacles, pitfalls that people tend to fall into where they just can't seem to get it working. Trust me, these are the reasons. These are the reasons. I hear it all the time.
Mhm. Thank you, Michael, for adding those points in. So we talked about the first aspect, if you will, of breathing and slowing down. We talked about the second aspect of airflow linking. And now we are going to be moving in towards the third aspect. And we basically consider it as the foundation of the Pro90D speech system. And that is the idea and the aspect of modeling. You might already have heard about it, you might not have heard about it. So, we are not going to be speaking a lot about it just because of time, but I'm just going to brief it out for someone who does not know much about it. Modeling, or in simple terms, speech modeling, means to model someone as a speaker, right? Just model someone as a speaker. So, for example, when you look out there, there is someone you really like the way they speak, you really admire the way they speak, and you feel like if you could speak like them, it would bring about a better speaking you, right? So you select someone as your speech model. The next step is that constant observation that needs to be in there. You constantly keep observing your model over and over again by listening to him, by watching him consistently over and over again. And in this process, what you're doing is that you are making a mental impression of your model's speaking style. Then the next step is the modeling practice. And there are mainly two parts to it. The first part goes around with formal modeling practice, and one aspect goes around with informal modeling practice. Formal modeling practice, and what we have our clients do, is that you model a specific video or a very short part of that video from your model, right? So you select a video from your model, you select a very small part of it, half a minute to a minute, you listen to it over and over again, and then you try to say the exact same words in a similar way as your models. So where your model extends, you extend. Where your model blends, you blend. You inflect in the same. You try to act in the same way. And obviously, you don't have to be 100% same, but you try to match it as much as you can. And you keep doing that over and over and over and over again. This is formal modeling practice. What do you think is free flow modeling practice or informal modeling practice? That is the idea of saying content of your own and practice saying it like your speech model. So you might be speaking about any of your hobby, your work, any of your plans for the next day, and you focus on saying that content like your model. You ask yourself, if my model was here, how do I think he would speak? How do I think my model would act? How do I think my model would feel? So you try to be in his shoes, his or her shoes, and then you practice modeling by yourself. Now, this is something that you have to not just do once, but keep doing that over and over again, your own personal practices. And then obviously you have to keep going out there and you keep using your modeling style. Whenever you speak to someone, instead of letting your mind, letting your brain focusing on, I hope I don't get stuck. What if I mess up? What if I have a hard time? I have to say this word. I have to say that word. You shift that focus and attention towards, if my model was here, first of all, how would he be feeling? Would he be feeling anxious? Would he be worrying about his speech? Or would he be enjoying his speech and speaking on the slower side? How do I think he would be acting right now? Would he be using his hands? Would he be using his facial expressions? How would he be speaking? So you try to keep asking yourself these questions, because when you ask them, your brain would go out and look for answers. And while it's doing that, it just can't focus on the negative aspects. I hope I don't get stuck. I hope I don't have a hard time. What if this word? What if that word? You're just not letting your brain do that by focusing on speaking like your speech model, right? So, modeling is just like acting. You would have heard many interviews of actors who say that when they are doing a role in a movie, at that time, when they're acting, when they're on the set, they do not feel like themselves. They feel like the role that has been given to them. Modeling is just like that. You get yourself into the shoes of your model. Modeling is not necessarily easy at the start, but the more you do it, it gets easier and easier. And the best part to it is that it acts as a bridge. It makes the process quite easier. It makes the process quite faster, right? For example, you're on this one mountain right now and you want to move towards the second mountain. One way might be to go down one mountain and then move up the second mountain and move your process like this. But modeling helps to bridge those mountains. It helps to make the process faster. So at the start, it might not be easier, but with time, it gets easier and it makes the process really faster instead of if I'm just on my own working on all of the speaking skills, right? You might be asking, but you guys also spoke about breathing and slowing down. You guys also spoke about airflow linking, blending your words. The best part is that just by the aspect of modeling, you start to develop a bundle of skills just by modeling. So, most, if not all, of the people inside the speech system, we model Michael. I modeled Michael when I was working on my speech. And because when Michael speaks, he extends, he blends, he inflects, he uses his hands and does all of the stuff. So rather than learning that stuff one by one, the people are able to learn it as a whole by modeling Michael. And he's not the only speaker that you can model. You can find someone whom you really like the way they speak and you feel like you would like to model their speech. The end goal of modeling is not necessarily to speak like someone, right? It might be, but it's really not. You're just using your model's speaking style to make your journey easier. And when you reach to the point in your speech where you want, then you can structure your speech in your own way. For example, right now when I speak, I might sound a bit similar to Michael, but maybe yes, maybe not. I have my own speaking style, right? So I modeled Michael and then built my own speaking style based on his, but now it's my own, right? So that is something that goes into it. Modeling, once again, helps you develop a bundle of skills. In the moment, when you focus on your model and you experience those speaking successes, whom do you think those speaking successes belong to? To your model? No, they belong to you. You're just using the speaking identity of your model and you're using that to speak well and to gather a whole lot of speaking successes. Because the reason you say that I have to speak like my model, I have to act like my model, I have to feel like my model, right? Your brain does not focus on your unsuccessful speaking experiences in the past because it's not you speaking in a sense, it's your model speaking, right? Something that might sound a bit weird to you guys, when I was modeling Michael, I modeled Michael for the language of English as well and for my own language as well. That is Urdu or Hindi, as you might call it. Although Michael does not speak that language, but I used to just visualize if Michael would speak that language, how would he speak? What would their speaking style be? Because their speaking style mostly stays the same, whatever language you speak. So I modeled Michael for my own language as well. And I did the practice over and over again, where I would say content of my own and I would focus on how would he say it? How would he be extending? How would he be blending? Right? If you can find a model in your own language, that is fine. But it worked for me for both languages, and it should work for most of the people. It does not matter if you are a female trying to model a male. It does not matter if you don't speak the same language because you're trying to catch their speaking style, not even exactly their voice. If that makes you feel like them, that's good. But once again, the goal of modeling is not to match their voice, is to match their speaking rhythm, their speaking cadence. That is what you're trying to match, right? And it makes the process quite faster and quite easier. It's a whole lot of stuff, so I just try to say it very, very briefly. I'm sure you have something to add on that, Michael.
Well, the one thing is that you want to remember that modeling is very, very natural for us. It is the way we learn to speak, definitely our first language and often other languages. It's the way we learn a lot of our mannerisms and characteristics. And believe it or not, we still model today. This is why we have to be careful about the people that we hang around because we uh, unconsciously, sometimes inadvertently model, we pick up things that they do. So when someone says, well, modeling doesn't work or it's too hard, it can be a little difficult as an adult, but even as adults, we still model. In fact, many musicians, athletes, writers, uh, business professionals, and you could go on and on, every single field, mechanic has modeled someone else. They watch the other person to see how they're doing it, and then they try to imitate them, try to mimic them. Modeling is something that you see in everyday life. We still do it. It's the way we learned how to do many of the things that we do today, and it works. So keep that in mind as you move forward. And it's something that's very unique to our system. Now, other people may have picked up on it over the years, but we were probably the first or one of the first ones that really implemented this as a core part of our program. And we found that it works like magic. It really does work like magic. Now, one of the things that I want to mention now is that those of you who are watching this, you're obviously watching this because in one way or another, you struggle with your speech. Perhaps you stutter, stammer, block. You may be situational, maybe only in certain high pressure speaking situations, maybe on certain words or letters, certain people. And you want and need to kind of fix your speech now. You need to transform your speech now. You may have meetings, presentations, interviews, social events that are coming up, and you need to be able to speak well because in meetings, interviews, and presentations, you're making an impression on those people that are there. And that impression is affecting your reputation. It's affecting your career. It's affecting your opportunities. The same thing with your social life. There are things that you want to go out and do more of, and you might be holding back because of your speech. So if you're a professional, you want to look at transforming your speech as an investment and not just as a cost, because it really is an investment. The amount of money that you spend in working with us is literally a drop in the bucket because the return that you can get and almost most certainly will get in your first promotion, in your first job or your second job, whatever it is, or your sale is going to dwarf the amount of money that you spent investing in improving your speech. Now, why am I talking about money and coaching? Well, because the reality is, and Farouk and I have seen this, I've seen this for more than 12 years, is if you work on your own, most people will only get to a certain point, and it will almost always take you longer. So if you need to improve your speech now because you have an interview, presentation, or a meeting coming up, working on your own is probably not going to get you there fast enough. And some of the reasons are a lack of accountability. This happens to me too. That's why I've paid probably hundreds of thousands of dollars now in a combination of coaching and programs. So lack of accountability, evaluation and feedback. There are things that you and I simply don't know. We can't see it, right? We don't know what we don't know. A trained and experienced coach can see those blind spots and tell you what you need to do. They can help keep you accountable for doing what you need to do long enough so that your brain rewires itself. And then there's encouragement. Many people, as they go through this process, get discouraged because they go through dips, they go over bumps, they get discouraged, and they either quit or they start to get a little lazy, or they start to back off and say, well, I don't think that's working. Let me just listen to audio. And then they start looking for other programs, looking for other YouTube videos. And all that you're doing is losing traction, wasting time, losing opportunity, and in many cases, wasting money. I can't tell you how many people who've gone, watch our videos, benefit, go hire someone else to work with them with their speech because maybe they had better marketing. We have to improve our marketing. But they would go and spend thousands of dollars or work with a therapist. I'm not saying therapists don't work and that other programs are not good because they are. And spend thousands of dollars and months only to end up doing what? Coming back to us because they know this works and that didn't work. So what am I saying? If you are a professional and you know that you need and you really want to transform your speech as quickly and easily as possible, you are going to want to work with one of us. And so we're going to leave a couple of links for you to book an assessment session because you probably want to talk to us and ask us some questions about how it works, how long it takes, what we're going to do, what the cost is. But do not look at this as a cost. You have to look at it like an investment. I have so many people, and we'll be sharing this with you. So many people recently recouped their investment and some. And so some people say, Michael, I didn't really believe you when you said that. They got into the program, they worked, next thing you know, they got a better job. They got a new job. They started making more sense. They said, I didn't believe you when you said it, but not just the finances. I've also told people that when you start this process and you get into it, people are going to start to tell you, right, unsolicitedly, they're going to tell you, hey, that was really good. I really enjoyed it. You're a great speaker. It's the, oh, Michael, I don't really believe that, especially if you're like a severe stutterer. You stutter, people, you just probably can't even see that that's possible. But trust me, Farouk and I have seen this happen over and over to our clients. People come up to them after they do a presentation or interview and say, wow, I really enjoyed that. You're a great speaker. Trust me, this can and does happen. I can't say it will happen, absolutely, but I can almost say that, right? Because it's happened so many times. And Farouk can testify to that too. I just wanted to share that with you because one of the reasons that we do these live sessions and webinars is to give you stuff that actually works so that you really don't need confirmation that from someone else, right? That this works because you will have tried it yourself. You know what? Just by breathing and slowing down, that has helped me a lot. What else can I do? And how quickly can I get there? And we're just sharing this with you that the fastest, easiest way to get the smooth speech is to work with us privately. We also have something called a virtual speech masters club, which I'll let Farouk talk about a little bit. And that gives you an opportunity to practice with us in real time and get feedback in an environment that's supportive. And you can do that as well as get the course. But even that is not like the coaching. Many of our coaching clients are actually in this club because it's helping take their speech to the next level to get the practice. So we'll be sharing some links with you, but just understand that the fastest, easiest way for you to transform your speech is to work with us privately.
Yeah, and I would just like to share while Michael can share the links that I first saw a video of Michael, and I was speaking about this with Michael as well. I think in around 2016 or 17, and that is where I first saw a video of Michael. And just after that one video, I got that hope that there is something that I can do that can not only help me get rid of stuttering, stammering, first of all, that's not even the goal, that can help me be an excellent speaker. It was hard to really believe that when I was listening to Michael in that first video, but now I can really see what he meant. And you can hear this from a lot of the people who joined this system. Looking back right now, from having worked on my speech and having helped some clients all around the world, stuttering, stammering, and I know I've said it on various occasions, so far it has been the best thing that has happened with me. It might sound a bit weird, but the speaker that I am right now, the speaker that Michael is, the speaker that the rest of the people who have transformed their speech with this speech system, it's primarily because we had to struggle with our speech. And that made us jump onto this system and that made us work on our speech. If you go out there, speak to your friends, speak to your family, and you say that, hey, I'm working on my speech, sometimes they have a weird look on their face. What's working on your speech? They don't even know that. So life gave you an opportunity to work on your speech. Look at it like a gift. You just have to use that gift in the right way and you have to start working on your speech. So you can keep watching these videos and all, But at some point, you would realize, just like I did and the people did, that you would want to get inside the course, you would want to get inside the one on one coaching, because that gives the most fastest of the results. Where someone might get working by themselves in 1 year, in 1.5 years, you would get even further by working with a coach within a period of around 3 to 4 months. It makes the process quite faster. It makes the process quite easier because you are more and more accountable. You get more encouraged, you get that real time feedback, and that is what keeps you going uphill. So, that is the fastest way. And the virtual speech masters, obviously, it is a great place, it is a great platform to use whatever you have been learning. The people right there are part of the speech system. Most of them, we have some external people as well who join. So you get to practice whatever you have been learning with all of the people and get real time feedback from us as well, from those people as well. So I would say the best part would be to do the coaching and the virtual speech masters, because that would really make you keep going uphill and keep making you move forward. Better late than not. So make sure that you don't wait until it's too late, because that is what most of the people do. Maybe I would work on my speech after 1 month, after 2 months, after a year, after 2 years, and life just keeps passing by. So if you want the rest of your life to be changed in terms of your social life, in terms of how you feel, in terms of how much you can make, in terms of how people look at you, if you would like to change that, start working on your speech right now. And it is going to be something that is really going to pay off for the rest of your life. Once again, don't wait until it's very late. So, yeah.
So we want to encourage you to subscribe to our channel, like these videos, share these videos. Uh, Even more importantly, we want you to implement what you're learning so that you can see results. And once again, if you're a professional or you're an aspiring professional, we've had many clients who are getting ready to go to college, or clients who are in college, or clients who are, for example, about to go to do an advanced degree. And you know that you're going to have to give presentations and you want to be able to make it through that, navigate through that successfully, then working on your speech is probably one of the highest value activities you can do. Because, like Dr. Ismail says, all the knowledge and expertise that you have in your head, no one's going to really know it unless you're able to articulate that. So, in a market, in an economy that may be fluctuating up and down, it's down, your communication skills will be one of your greatest assets. Who do you think is going to get promoted? Who's going to retain jobs? Who's going to be able to get the new jobs? Not going to be the person who's the smartest, not even going to be the person who's the most qualified. It's going to be the person who's able to articulate the best their qualification. So you can have people who work with you who are less qualified than you, but advance faster because of their what? Communication skills. You're going to have people that apply for jobs that you are more qualified for, and they get those jobs not because they're more qualified, but because of their communication skills. If you haven't experienced this already and you struggle with your speech, trust me, you will, but you don't need to, right? And just remember this, the time's going to pass anyway. I want you to think back 30 days. Think back 60 days or 90 days from now. Think back. Where were you? How were you struggling? What were you struggling with? Now, I want you to think 30 days, 60 days, 90 days into the future. Where would you like to be? Well, 30 days, unless you die, 30 days is going to come, it's going to pass. 60 days is going to pass. 90 days is going to pass. It's going to come. Will you still be just watching videos and listening to audios and saying, yeah, I really need to work on my speech. I'd like to. Will you still be spending the money someplace? We're going to spend the money. If you're a professional, you have it. You're going to spend it someplace 6 months from now. Or will you have invested in your speech so that 30, 60, 90 days from now, you can look back and go, wow, you can look back like a lot of our clients and say, wow, I should have done this a long time ago. I'm so glad I did this. You have to put in the work, and it's a reasonable amount of work. It's not something that you can't do, or it's not completely overwhelming. You're like, oh my God, I can't work for 9 hours a day on my speech. Very reasonable. Just remember, time's going to pass anyway. Where will you, where will your speech be in 30, 60, 90 days? Where do you want it to be? We can help you get it there as quickly and easily as possible. So I just want to leave you with that, because we see so many people out there hurting and just losing opportunities. And we know we have the answer. We have the solution. And it's been working for a decade now. I want you to have it. Okay. All right, Farouk, do you have anything else for us, man?
I don't really think so.
Thank you so much, Farouk, for that session. Very, very practical solutions, techniques, strategies that we know works, and we hope that you implement it. Please get in touch with us. If you look at our YouTube channel, I've left links there for you to check out the Virtual Speech Masters, as well as the book assessment with myself or Farouk. And we hope to see you this Saturday. We do the Virtual Speech Masters every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, every Saturday. And we'll be doing webinars every other week and live sessions the weeks in between. So next week, we'll have a webinar that's coming up, and we want to see you there. Okay. All right. We'll see you guys next time.
Hey, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you.